Good evening, I'm Henry Goodwin, and our sports sticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. It was announced yesterday that Nebraska great Ndamukong Suh will be one of 79 players on the 2026 ballot for the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame. Suh is included on the ballot in his first year of eligibility. Suh had a dominant career at Nebraska from 2005 to 2009, capped by a 2009 season that is widely regarded as one of the best individual seasons in college football history. After losing to the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, the New York Knicks fired head coach Tom Thibodeau. This season marks the furthest into the postseason that the Knicks have made it since 2000. Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder start Thursday at 7:30. The French Open continues in Paris today as both American men in its quarterfinals lost. Tommy Paul lost to Carlos Alcaraz in 3 sets, and Francis Tiafoe lost to Lorenzo Musetti in 4 sets. Musetti and Alcaraz will face each other in the semifinals this Friday. Our sports ticker is sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Call a timeout. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Now get ready for 2 hours of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
Creighton's got it. Center dump. Kendra, wait, no. Nebraska bumps it again. Harper for the match. Off the ticket out. Call the grandkids. They did it. 15-10. Set 5. Nebraska keeps beating Creighton. 23-0 all time. That was a volleyball match.
Gets the snap, back to throw, steps, throws, intercepted, picked off Malcolm Hartzog at the Nebraska 43-yard line. It's his 4th career INT.
Horn has the sign. He comes set, and the 3-2 pitch. Popped up, playable, shallow left. Carey makes the call, backing up, and he makes the catch on his 118th pitch. Ty Horn has 8 shutout here in the championship.
Now, here is your host, Nick Handley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, good evening and welcome to Sports Nightly on a Tuesday night. Jessica Cootie off for the week, so I'll be doing some pinch hitting for the remainder of the week. No show on Friday, but we've got 2 hours of Sports Nightly today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Happy to be in with you. I am Nick Handley. And we're going to be talking a lot about, we've got some college baseball to get to. We got college football. Is it ever too early to get into the football power index numbers, or the FPI, as everybody likes to talk about so much at this time of the year? But hey, the ball bat sports are over with. We're counting down, I believe, 86 days until Thursday night football for Nebraska and Cincinnati. So we will get into that because there's a huge event coming up here on Friday that the public is welcome to take in, and I think they really should for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about that. Also, I'm going to take a look at that Football Power Index in hour number 2 and look at where Nebraska is as they get into that critical part, that probably the part of development for a football team that is not discussed as much because it's a little bit more behind the scenes, but make no mistake about it, it is very, very important, and that is the summer conditioning, the summer workouts that the coaches do have a chance to organize and monitor, kind of an OTA feel type going on right now as players, especially those new faces, making their way into Lincoln, some for the first time. So we will talk a little bit about that. Coming up on the show, going to be talking some college baseball and get some football thoughts as well, because Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, he covers both of those beats. Get his thoughts on not only the Nebraska baseball season as that comes to an end, but also what he's seeing on the national stage. As we got Super Regionals starting this weekend, we'll have College World Series just around the corner in the following week. So, I mean, it is getting here. It's getting close. And some interesting trends going on, especially in what many would consider to be one of the most dominant conferences when it comes to college baseball in the SEC. But wasn't all great for the SEC. But we'll get into some of those trends as well with Evan. Speaking of baseball, in hour number 2, going to be talking to one of the many seniors that pitched their last game and put on that Nebraska uniform for the last time, Drew Kristo. There still could be some pro ball ahead for Stowe. Also, a guy that's got a lot working for him if baseball doesn't work out, too. But looking forward to talking to Drew Kristo in hour number 2. Of course, you're always able to chime in on anything you want to talk about or any comments that you'd like to have on anything we discussed tonight. 402-413-2444 here on Sports Nightly. So, wanted to start because I had a chance to talk with Matt Coatney a little bit, and I know he has discussed this yesterday. I know Jessica has brought this up too, but there is a very cool event that is going to be taking place on Friday, and I just think that this is something that maybe, if you haven't heard about it, could throw a little bit more insight on this thing and how cool it is. The Battle at the Boneyard going on Friday. Now, there was a time in college football, and there was a time really for Nebraska. We remember satellite camps. Of course, those still take place. At times they were controversial as far as where certain coaches could go and what their reach was. And we remember Jim Harbaugh being in the center of controversy with some of those things. Then there was, of course, here locally for Nebraska, the Friday night light camps. I mean, who will ever forget Buki Hadley-Riles, right? Buki Hadley-Riles. I mean, there was a lot of intrigue for some of the players that made their way into Lincoln for those Friday night light camps, including the Heat, because I remember on a couple occasions those things were in the triple digits, even at night on a Friday in Lincoln. But this one is a little different, and I think is going to be very, very unique, but also very, very entertaining. So as we've seen a lot of these 7-on-7 teams, these summer teams that have so many of the great skill position players and athletes throughout high school football, and a lot of the big-time recruits that are going to be on just about every major college football coach's list on guys that can help them win and really have an early impact in their college football career. There is going to be several of them in Lincoln competing in this Battle at the Boneyard event that will be taking place. It's essentially a 7-on-7 tournament. There's going to be camp-style things that these guys will go through. Again, kind of an OTA fashion, drills and whatnot. So you do get a little chance to, if you're a coach especially, have a chance to do some observations and lead through drills. But then there's going to have the competition taking place. It will end in Memorial Stadium, where you will have all of these tournaments going on. They'll have I believe the pool play begins in the afternoon, and then at the evening time, you're going to have essentially the championship rounds of this thing. And again, this thing is open to the public. And this is going to be one of the first of its kind, really, at a major college football stadium like this. So this event that I know Matt Rule has been a big proponent of and really trying to pitch this for, I think, a variety of reasons. You're able to get these types of players that either have Nebraska on their list, but there hasn't been a lot of contact yet, or they are maybe seeing Lincoln for the first time, seeing the facilities for the first time. And all of these players, all these teams will have a chance to see Memorial Stadium. They'll have a chance to see the brand new facility next to Memorial Stadium. They'll see the Osborne Legacy Complex, all of the great things that Nebraska has from an advantage standpoint when it does come to their facilities. So not only do they get a chance to see that, but this is where you, the fan, comes in, where you can really, like we saw on some of those Friday night light camps, and like we've seen year in and year out at spring games, where you can show up and you can watch this thing, you can support it, you can provide it to be a crowd there, and we know how influential that can be when it comes to big-time recruits and recruits that are considering Nebraska. Just a very interesting thing that we're going to see. I mean, we're talking about recruiting hotbeds for places like Atlanta, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, other places that are going to have teams that are going to be coming from those various recruiting hotbeds to Lincoln this Friday. And again, it's free to the public. Now, the good thing is, too, there's incentive to get there early because we all like free stuff, right? Well, I know I do. I definitely like free stuff. And if you are the first, I believe it's the first 500 that make it in first, the first 500 in attendance will receive a T-shirt courtesy of Adidas. You also get a free Fairbury brand hot dog. Let's go. I mean, come on, right? Right there. You had me at Fairbury hot dog, and then a free Gatorade. So you get something out of this, too. Again, that's for the first 500 attending for this. This is this Friday. It's at Memorial Stadium, and this camp is going to be awesome to see. It includes the championship showcase Friday evening, so you get to see the finals of this thing. If you are planning on going, the parking will be at Stadium Drive Parking Garage and 14th and Avery Parking Garage. That's all free. Entrance will be at Gate 11. And again, the first 500, you get a little incentive there with the free Adidas shirt, the Gatorade, and a Fairbury brand hot dog. But you start to think about events like this. And obviously I think there's a lot of work behind the scenes that you have to pull off, obviously, right? You look at compliance, making sure that everything fits under the NCAA rules and regulations. Now, I know sometimes you ask, what exactly are those these days? But that is going to be a big part of this. And Nebraska was able to do all of this to make sure that there's nothing that is out of bounds when it comes to any NCAA rules and regs. You also look at this thing from a standpoint of the type of talent where you can bring in, and we know there's going to be this for Nebraska, some of their current commits, including to Trey Taylor, that are also going to be there to do some peer recruiting. So this is the other cool thing. Whether you're a participant or not, if you're someone who's already committed to Nebraska, this can also serve as your official visit to where you are having the conversations of why you made the commitment to Nebraska. And so there's a lot of opportunity here for Nebraska to come out of this thing looking very good and weighing heavily on some of these players' minds. That's why it's a very unique way to go about all of this world of very, very aggressive recruiting. And I think very innovative recruiting, because so many conversations that we have when it comes to a football roster has a lot to do with the transfer portal these days. But we also know in the day and age of the traditional recruiting and high school recruiting, you're trying to now, with what we will assume once the House settlement becomes final, what we assume will be a roster limitation, the type of players that you're identifying out of the traditional markets, the high school markets, you need to find those guys that are going to be able to impact you quickly, guys that have that potential to play as freshmen or at least redshirt freshmen. And you're going to get a lot of those types of caliber players are going to be here Friday night in Lincoln. And I think it's really goes to show you this creativity that this coaching staff has of putting on an event that I think it serves multiple purposes. Obviously, it serves the purpose of having some of the better athletes and the skill position players in Lincoln Friday night in this 7-on-7 on Friday, I should say, during the day, in this 7-on-7 camp, and then the ultimate the championship format that'll take place, which I believe pool play begins around 5 o'clock, if you're wondering about that. And then there'll be a break. Then they'll set up the brackets for the tournament officially starting right at 6 p.m. And then everything will go on from there. But what this does is you have this very large quantity of recruits across the country right now, and really for your next cycles. This isn't just for the following cycle. I mean, this is for the next 2 or 3 cycles, given the age of these players. To be able to get in on some of those guys early, but identify guys that'll fit in certain systems as well. This is the type of experience, obviously, that is huge for this football team and thinking about the future. But also, this is another football event for the fans that is unique. We saw not only the spring game and the change of format there, but there's also the part that I think is kind of fun to see when we had the open practice this year, that the fans got a chance to see that. Obviously, it was something that it was a paid event, but you got a chance to see how practices go, and it had a little competition going on as well. These are those unique opportunities to see not only the current team, but also see opportunities. First of all, 7-on-7 football is huge right now, but to see guys that might very well put on a Husker uniform, or guys that Nebraska really needs to put on a Husker uniform. And as fans, which we know Nebraska fans show out better than most, that you can have a part in that by showing up and showing these players like, wow, these people show up on a Friday night in June to watch this. This is pretty cool. They care about football. So it's I just think it's a really cool event. Again, the whole thing gets underway in the afternoon. Pool play right around 5 o'clock at Memorial Stadium, and then they'll have their brackets hashed out right around 6, and that'll go all the way to the championship game of this 7-on-7 camp and this tournament. So before they get into pool play, though, they're going to be doing drills and all kinds of different things, and just a really neat event. Again, that is this Friday, the Battle at the Boneyard. Really want to get that, and we're going to be talking about that throughout the week. We'll have some guests to talk about the importance of that. Guys that know the benefit and the value of an event like this much more than I do. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk some college baseball. We're going to do also some college football because the guy who wears both of those hats, Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, will join us right after this at Sports Nightly. We got more coming up next.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your crawl space and damaging your home. Musty smells, sagging floors, mold are just a few signs your crawl space is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
No need to hunt around for friendly service, low prices, quality products, and great experiences. You'll find it all with the local experts, Sapp Brothers Petroleum. If you're tired of tracking down another late delivery, it's time to consider Sapp Brothers, where we pride ourselves on delivering products on time or even ahead of schedule, with your safety our top priority. Switching is easy. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. And right now, when you contact Sapp Brothers for any of your fuel, propane, or lubricant needs, you'll be entered to win a guided pheasant hunt next fall. Visit sappbros.net/Huskers.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing. You pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
The Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Nick Handley in our We'll call it our Omaha satellite studio. Of course, Russ Brown and Henry Goodwin back in the Lincoln Akrs Broadcast Center. So college baseball heating up at our – we got a big taste of it last week. I love the round-the-clock coverage. Of course, squeeze play is one of the fantastic things that ever happened to college baseball. And Nebraska was a part of that first weekend. Unfortunately, their season comes to an end at the hands of the Oklahoma Sooners. Sooners taking 2 from Nebraska. Huskers do get a win against Holy Cross in an elimination game. And we talk about that. We talk about the college baseball season as it continues to move forward to super regional play with a guy that is on both beats, the Nebraska baseball beat. Also, he'll be doing a lot of the College World Series coverage when that happens in a week and a half. And, of course, talking a little football if we have time with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. So, Evan, now your attention goes from Nebraska baseball to the entire remainder of the field right now. But is it safe to say this is, as most people maybe are getting a couple of weeks off, this only just ramps up for you?
Yeah, it does feel that way. It's just getting a little bit more intense. And if you're an Omaha local business, I think you're pretty keyed in, too, to whether you're getting an SEC team in town, if this is going to be a Cinderella sort of series. And, you're spot on about squeeze play. That's quite the invention, especially early in the regionals when you're bopping around to, half a dozen different sites at one time. A ton of really exciting stuff. And I thought the big picture story out of the weekend, Nick, was the hit that the SEC took. You talk about a league that had 13 bids, and your number 1 overall seed goes down, and Vandy number 2 overall in Texas, and you ultimately advance just 4 out of 13 into that supers round, and then you've got Tennessee and Arkansas going up against each other. So the SEC is going to max out at 3 teams in Omaha. That's the best they can do at this point, which is really interesting. And I think beyond that, it was just kind of refreshing to see some Cinderellas. Like it was neat to see Murray State do what it did. I know Miami's not maybe a 3 seed in brand, but that was a team that had really faltered down the stretch and came back. UTSA is a fun story. So I think it's refreshing in the sense that you do have some power names, but you also have some schools that, like, this is a big deal. They haven't been to this point, and a week from now we're going to know who those Omaha 8 are, and we're going to ramp this thing up again. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Evan, I do want to get into some Nebraska baseball, but you brought up the SEC part of this. I know you, anybody involved with baseball, I was getting this question just yesterday as well, and I'm curious your answer on that, and that is we see the parity. And what you just described right there with the SEC, the amount of teams they get into the tournament, but the amount that remain. And, having 2 really good teams not even make it out of their regional, and some really having to dig deep to play on that very final game to make it out of their regional. We see parity in college baseball. If there's one reason you chalk up the parity that we're seeing right now compared to what we've seen in years past, where it's really been dominated by the SEC, ACC, and you can throw the Big 12 in there a little bit as well, what would you point to and where that parity is stemming from?
It's tempting to say transfer portal and NIL sort of evening the field, but really what we've seen is it's evening the field if you are in a certain tier, if you're resourcing your programs to a certain point. So right. You still, even with some of the hits that the SEC has taken, that conference is still on a run where they've had 6 different champions in 6 years, 7 and 8, and it would be 8 different if Arkansas hadn't dropped a foul ball in 2018 and Oregon State goes on to win that thing. So it's an interesting time where there's not a dynasty in the sense of one dominant team. I think the college baseball this year, there wasn't sort of that clear number 1 the way that there has been in recent years. LSU a couple of years ago, what Tennessee has been in 22 and 24. I think those were clear number 1 type teams. I don't know that you have that as much. So part of me, Nick, kind of just thinks some of this is just the way the ball goes. It's kind of the nature of baseball is you can be loaded, but it still comes down to a pitcher on a given day, whether they have command and what an opposing lineup can be. I mean, you see what, like the Los Angeles Dodgers in the majors, like they have all the resources in the world and they still lose games because they're susceptible to injuries and because baseball kind of just by its nature is unpredictable at times. So I kind of get the sense that that's what we saw this week. Like if we play those regionals out 10 times, I think there's a pretty good chance the SEC advances more than 4 teams almost every other time. But that's just kind of how it went this particular weekend. And, you know, that league has a target on its back for how it's dominated not just college baseball, but college athletics in general. So I know probably outside of the Southeast, there's not a ton of love lost on that. But, I mean, that's just kind of what I chalk it up to. For what it's worth, I still think Arkansas, to me, is the national championship favorite. It would probably maybe co-favorite with LSU. So that SEC dominance still has a chance to continue. But I think it's probably a good thing for the sport that it's maybe not going to continue in terms of dominating the College World Series field like we've seen more recently.
Talking with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. We'll shift to Nebraska here in just a moment, but you brought up something, and in the UTSA thing, it's funny. So we were, before we flew out on Monday, we were all getting together, having dinner, and just really appreciating the season that we had a chance to experience. There was, you know, myself and Ben and a lot of the staff, and one person had brought this up, and I thought she was spot on. We were watching UTSA, and she looked over at us and she said, well, too bad a lot of those players for UTSA are going to be either in Austin or in College Station, because that's the other part about this is you get those non-traditional teams, and in the stakes, and this is where I do think the transfer portal and the NIL part come in, that if there's someone that shows out on one of those non-traditional power teams and they're in the area, those schools like Texas that you know are going to put money into their college baseball program, A&M, I know after the stumble that they had, they're desperate to get back out there, the TCUs of the world. I thought it was a great point. It's like, yeah, I wonder how many of these players for UTSA will be back on that roster because of the types of opportunities, at least financially, that they'll probably have.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, UTSA and Murray State, which I had to look it up, located in Kentucky. But that, you know, both of those programs to me are ones where I heard or just even saw on social media, it was like, well, there's the head coach, next year's head coach at name the SEC team or at Virginia next year, which just lost Brian O'Connor to Mississippi State. I mean, there's that assumption. We've seen it for a long time with coaches who would kind of have that upward mobility just because I think they understand you have to be probably well-resourced to a certain point. You have to be maybe in a certain part of the country in terms of recruiting location to contend. And now I think you're starting to see that with some players as well, where, you have a good season and you're going to get hit up in the off season legally, or otherwise. People are going to find a way to reach out and say, hey, what's your interest level in maybe coming to our more established program. I think the UTSA one, if I'm not mistaken, Texas was trying for its 50th super regional and UTSA was going for its first. So like you just saw that disparity play out, and for them to win 2 out of 3 in Austin, I mean, it's pretty remarkable on its own. But that's just kind of the assumption. That's what we're working with at this point, is some of those lower conference teams. It almost does kind of feel like a feeder system for the bigger programs, and that's, I think, reinforced when you get to the College World Series next week and you start perusing these rosters. Almost without exception, you're going to find transfers from smaller schools, from lower divisions, guys who maybe played their entire undergraduate career somewhere else, and then this is sort of their last chance to go big. So I think that trend is continuing, and whether that's good or bad for the sport probably depends on your rooting allegiances.
Evan, this Nebraska baseball season, it almost seems like it was that perfect example of the tale of two halves. When we look at the first half of the conference season and you couple the non-conference in, and there was some various success in that first half, don't get me wrong, but you don't want to gloss over the good, but you have to bring up the month of March and the tough schedule that Nebraska had on the front end of the conference slate, but then the second half of the season and the excitement that got Nebraska back to a Big Ten tournament championship game and seeing them go back-to-back winning it. When you look back at this season now in its totality, words that come to mind, how do you describe it? Success, how do you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, resilient for sure. Like you think about it, a team that was 10-14 and 2-7 in the league and had just been swept by UCLA and loses a series to USC, and you just kind of wonder, like, is this where it kind of goes south the way that the 22 season did? And to their credit, that's not the way that it went. They lost, I think, one weekend really from that point on to Iowa in a close series, and then it didn't happen again until regional weekend. And they did that while navigating the second half without their preseason ace, a good chunk of that without their top bullpen arm and Tucker Timmerman. And then you go down to the home stretch of the season without, at times, a third of the lineup that you anticipated having because of various injuries. So I think there's a ton of credit there. The season as a whole is interesting to me, Nick, because I think if you just said in early February, okay, this is a preseason top 25 team, it's a favorite in the Big Ten, and people expected Nebraska to go to a regional, and you just fast forwarded 3 months, that's just kind of what happened, right? Like, they did win the Big Ten tournament again, which was a very impressive feat, and they did go back to the NCAA tournament. I think it's the part in the middle that people are talking about, right? Like, you kind of wish maybe you didn't have to run the table to go back to the regional at that point. So the feedback that I've gotten from fans has been very interesting, because I've heard people that have said, great job coming together late and overcoming things to get to where they were. And then you hear people too that say, Nebraska needs to be in a better situation going into May, where it doesn't have to be a dropped fly ball in right field having that chance into June. So it's the program, I think, especially now in this revenue share era, where schools are going to have to explicitly say, this is the program that we're going to support financially, and this is number 2, and this is number 3. I think the conversation about, like, where baseball falls into that at Nebraska is really interesting, especially then when you look nationally and you see the teams that are still in the mix in the super regional round, like the investment level that they put in. Where Nebraska fits into that, I think, is a really fascinating discussion as they retool their roster for another run in 2026.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go next, and maybe even couple in the fact that what you just said there about the future of how you want to prioritize Nebraska baseball in this new world of college athletics, where we'll have shared revenue, but that also could provide more scholarship opportunities than what currently exists for the ball bat sports, for baseball and softball. I also wanted to get your thoughts, though, and you can answer this one first. We saw the addition of 4 Pac-12 teams, and 4 teams that were 1 through 5 seeding when it came to the Big Ten tournament. We saw Washington and Lincoln. They got 2 out of 3 from Nebraska. We saw UCLA. Nebraska got swept by them, but ultimately beat them in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon, we know what kind of team they were and how excited we were to see Nebraska beat them too. And then USC was a solid team. And USC was right there on the doorstep of getting out of a regional and playing in a super as well. What do you think, now that you've seen it all play out, Evan, what do you think those additions have done to the effort of bolstering this resume of the Big Ten and its overall baseball reputation right now?
Yeah, I think on the whole, Nick, they've raised the profile of the league. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're the number 4 RPI league now. Traditionally, they had been in the 6 to 7 range, and part of that's because the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. But, I mean, that's really what the pecking order is now, is SEC, ACC, Big 12, and then Big 10. We saw it in the tournament in Omaha, where I think it did get more national attention because you had UCLA and Oregon, which were fringe regional host type schools, so that were part of the national conversation. And I think it does too, it gives other league members maybe a little bit more of a chance to boost their postseason resume in league play. I mean, a year ago, your top team that you're maybe going to have a chance to do that against is what, Indiana or Iowa or Michigan. So the chance to play one of those West Coast schools in April or early May, I think does make a difference. Now, if you're a traditional Big Ten team like Nebraska or Michigan or Indiana or Illinois, I do think you have to look at what just happened this year with some concern, though, and say, okay, yeah, the Big Ten is now this year was a 4-bid league. It would have been a 3-bid league if Nebraska hadn't won the tournament, and all those at-large bids went to the West Coast. So I think it forces some of those more traditional Midwest teams to kind of look at their situations and say, how can they step up their game? How can they be help their programs be more well-resourced in terms of recruiting and maybe how they schedule in the non-conference? So, in February, I was really curious to see how those West Coast schools would acclimate, because we saw in other sports the toll that traveling around the country had on those teams. I didn't get the sense that it was as extreme maybe for those teams on the baseball side, and maybe ultimately they provided a little bit of a blueprint for the rest of the Big Ten on how you can play a league schedule like that and still come out on the other side as a national player.
Yeah, I think those are all spot on right there, and it's going to be interesting to see how a lot of those teams, and I'm going to talk about this in the next segment too, some of those teams in the Big Ten on where they go as far as trying to put themselves in the top half when it does come to competition. Evan, before I let you go, and I know this is probably right now secondary to you because you are fully in baseball mode right now, but I was talking in the first segment about this very unique event Friday with the battle at the Boneyard, and you cover football. I know you obviously pay attention to what Nebraska does to bolster their roster, but just from an event, look, we know the Friday night light camps were very popular. This seems like that, but so much more unique, and you get the fan involvement as well. 7-on-7 is just such a popular thing here in the summer. I'm just curious your initial thoughts on this event and what it could ultimately mean for Nebraska, not just this year, but moving forward if they continue to be creative with things like this.
Yeah, I'm going to be out there Friday afternoon and evening. I think that'll be fascinating to see what kind of crowd shows up. I agree. It does sort of have shades of the Friday Night Lights activities that they had back in the day, back when we saw Micah Parsons in 2017, schooling 4-star DBs. Like, that was pretty incredible. But no, I think it's a really creative way to get players on campus and high-profile players. Like, that's what we've always heard. Matt Rule has certainly said it in his time at Nebraska. Like, the challenge has been, how do you get some of these top prospects on your campus to see your facility, to see, to meet the people behind the scenes and your, your nutrition your folks and your weight room and everything else, your recovery pods. You can do that through official visits and unofficial visits, but sometimes it's hard to get guys in those capacities. And so what Nebraska has said is, okay, let's host this national style 7-on-7 tournament. And you can bet there are a whole bunch of guys who are coming in, receivers, quarterbacks, DBs, whatever, who probably aren't considering Nebraska. But if they spend a couple of days in Lincoln and they're hanging out downtown, how many times have we heard recruits say, I just assumed it was a field surrounded by corn? And that's not the case. So I think it's a really smart way to leverage the best things Nebraska has going for it, which are its fan base, which are its ancillary pieces around football. And to me, the story is going to be not necessarily who wins the tournament this weekend or even who all shows up, but what fruit that bears in the months and maybe years ahead when these guys have decisions to make.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting follow for sure. Evan, always appreciate your time between the baseball coverage, all the football coverage, everything you do. Always great to catch up with you. And, hey, maybe we'll see you in downtown Omaha here in a week and a half as well.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Nick.
That is Evan Bland with the Omaha World-Herald. Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. Got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more after this here on Sports Nightly.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to goodrx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. Just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your foundation and damaging your home. Cracks in walls and uneven floors are just a few signs your foundation is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. A couple quick segments here before we wrap up hour number one. Coming up again in hour number two, going to be talking to Nebraska senior pitcher Drew Kristo, get his thoughts on the season, and a guy that hopefully is not done playing baseball yet, because there is a lot of life still in that arm, but looking forward to talking to Stowe in the hour number two of the show. So wanted to really quickly touch on something Evan and I were talking about, and big thanks to Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. He does such great coverage with not only Husker baseball, but also college baseball. But if you look at one of the big things that I think Nebraska is going to be a part of, and a lot of the conversation that Nebraska will obviously have to really take a look at when it does come to rev share, which, by the way, whenever that thing finalizes, the House settlement, I'm really fascinated to see what comes of that. But if you take a look at the overall Big Ten right now with the non-traditional teams, you have to really take into effect where this thing is going to go. And I think for Nebraska, I feel pretty confident that this is a baseball program that understands that there is a strong desire from its fan base to see this team be successful year in and year out. Now, some people's definition of success, I think, is going to vary from one person to the other, whether it's regional hosts, whether it's what Nebraska's done the last couple of years, and really during the Will Bolt tenure of finding yourself in the NCAA regional more times than not. There are obviously challenges in the Big Ten compared to when Nebraska was in the Big 12, and I think those are well documented. But now you've seen, and I thought Evan brought up a really good point about that blueprint that UCLA showed, that even Oregon, even though that they hosted the regional, they go 2-Q, but there was still a regional host. And even teams that had made the regionals like USC first year in the Big Ten, and they find themselves on the doorstep of getting out of their regional. So all of those things really do play into what I think the traditional Big Ten teams, and you got to put Nebraska in that conversation because even though they're not the original teams in the Big Ten, they were one of those that have been now part of this group for a long enough time to understand the lay of the land and have had some success in doing so. Do you need to be as overly aggressive in your non-con? But I thought what Evan brought up is also very true. If Nebraska doesn't go on the run in the Big Ten tournament, it's still a 3-bid league. And so I love the fact that Nebraska goes hard in on the non-conference. I look at another example, and this isn't to pile on Iowa, because I watched Iowa with my own eyes. That's a good baseball team. But Iowa's biggest issue, they get to the semifinal of the Big Ten tournament, they would have had a shot to get an at-large if their non-conference is more competitive. And so I think there are schools that it does serve them very well to schedule aggressively, and I think Nebraska is one of them. But I think when you look at the West Coast example, they recruit at a different level too. That UCLA team is a perfect example. That is a sophomore class that was the number one ranked incoming class when they were coming in 2 years ago from Perfect Game. You've seen that team flourish under those sophomores. Guys like Rock Chalowski, that's a sophomore. Mulavai Lavu, that's a sophomore. Cashel Duggar, that's a sophomore. The majority of their power arms, those are sophomores. And there's a lot to choose from in the state of California. Do they need a schedule is tough? No, not necessarily. But I think they feel pretty confident about the consistency and really the stacked roster that they can recruit year in and year out. For the teams in the Midwest, I think that's going to be interesting. And this is where NIL, and this is where the revenue share, I think, does come into play, of where will some of these athletic directors and athletic departments prioritize baseball in the Big Ten. I think what he brought up with Illinois is a great example. I think Indiana's another one that has decent facilities and they've had some success, but are they going to go all in? I mean, that's football and basketball, especially the football success they just had. Obviously, they're going to make a play in football. Basketball is always going to reign supreme there as well. Where does baseball fall in? I think there are a lot of schools, even Penn State, that seems like they are on the up and up. Will they take a step back because there's not enough money to go around? It's going to be something that's going to be very interesting to follow into next season when you do see a little bit more financial opportunities for players, for student athletes, that is, but where will it be with the ball bat sports, especially in baseball? We'll find out. Going to step aside. We're going to take a quick break. Also wanted to remind you that the Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. More coming up here on Sports Nightly.
The 2025 Husker football season is right around the corner, and we need you at all 7 games in Memorial Stadium this fall. A limited number of club-level sideline and end-zone season tickets are now on sale and start at just $420. Act fast, as season tickets will only be available to purchase until June 9th. To purchase your season tickets today, visit huskers.com/tickets. Go Big Red!
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. It's just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds, 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. And I know at the top of the hour in the ticker, Ndamukong Suh, part of that College Football Hall of Fame inductee list. I asked this question, and I feel like it's probably a tired question because I feel like there's always a time during the college football season where Ndamukong Suh's name is brought up, whether it's because of some type of national award, some type of, again, just a visit that he makes to Nebraska. He's on some type of college football list of the greatest players to ever play. There's always, feels like the last 5 years, there's been some type of conversation about Ndamukong Suh and his dominance. I think it goes without saying, without question, top 3 Huskers of all time, and in some cases, might be the best. And when you look at the overall dominance that he had, isn't it always interesting to think about Ndamukong Suh when he first got to Nebraska? And we can say all we will about the different eras of coaches and the success or lack thereof that some had. And yes, I know Bill Callahan, hey, they recruited Ndamukong Suh, but they weren't getting that much out of him. I think it's safe to say the Bo Pelini era of college football at Nebraska as the head coach, if there was one thing that he and his defensive staff got absolutely 100% right, was being able to unlock that finishing touch on Ndamukong Suh. Because the guy always had it. He was, for as big as he was always such a gifted athlete and was so light on his feet. The guy was that size playing soccer growing up. Like, think about that. But as far as putting him in a two-gap scheme the way that they did and unlocking his full potential to see him be the college football player that he turned out to be, and really the NFL player he turned out to be, and just in some of the biggest games, absolutely without question, the most dominant college football player I've ever had a chance to see, maybe next to Aaron Donald on the defensive side of the football. It's just amazing to me that if they don't have Bo Pelini, do we see that full ability of Ndamukong Suh? I will always thank Bo Pelini and his staff for that. Coming up in hour number 2, we're going to be talking to Drew Kristo. Also going to get into the College Football Power Index. That's all still ahead here on Sports Nightly. Don't go anywhere.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
No need to hunt around for friendly service, low prices, quality products, and great experiences. You'll find it all with the local experts, Sapp Brothers Petroleum. If you're tired of tracking down another late delivery, it's time to consider Sapp Brothers, where we pride ourselves on delivering products on time or even ahead of schedule, with your safety our top priority. Switching is easy. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. And right now, when you contact Sapp Brothers for any of your fuel, propane, or lubricant needs, you'll be entered to win a guided pheasant hunt next fall. Visit sappbros.net/Huskers.
Good evening, I'm Henry Goodwin, and our sports sticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. It was announced yesterday that Nebraska great Ndamukong Suh will be one of 79 players on the 2026 ballot for the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame. Suh is included on the ballot in his first year of eligibility. Suh had a dominant career in Nebraska from 2005 to 2009, capped by a 2009 season that is widely regarded as one of the best individual seasons in college football history. After losing to the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, the New York Knicks fired head coach Tom Thibodeau. This season marks the furthest into the postseason that the Knicks have made it since 2000. Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder start on Thursday at 7:30. French Open continues in Paris today as both American men in the quarterfinals lost. Tommy Paul lost to Carlos Alcaraz in 3 sets, and Francis Tiafoe lost to Lorenzo Musetti in 4 sets. Musetti and Alcaraz will face each other in the semifinals this Friday. Our sports sticker is sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Call a timeout. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Now, get ready for Hour 2 of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
Tight formation, turn, toss it off to a little end around by Barney. He's at the 10-5, touchdown Nebraska. Ja'Cory Barney slips in there, taking the pitch on the end around from 10 yards out. Nebraska stretches the lead to 20-3.
Pickens with a 1-2. Bland rolls the ground ball to third. Gibson charges, backhand stop, throw. The first to throw, wild! Runner safe at first. Squire scores. Now Lauren Cabot's in around third. She dives in safely. The throw wide of the plate. Bland around third. She's gonna score! Everybody scores! Everybody scores! A Little League 3-run home run for Sammy Bland! 3-1 Nebraska!
Between the circles now to Wooster into Morgan, back to the basket, comes left, dribble handoff to Esijan, took a bump, drives it, puts it up, got it! Holy smokes, what a great goal by Connor Esijan. He's not just a three-point shooter, my friends, 70-67.
Now, here is your host, Nick Handley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hour 2 of Sports Nightly here on the Huskers Radio Network. Nick Handley with you all throughout the rest of the week. Jessica Cootie on vacation. Appreciate you tuning in tonight on this Tuesday night. Also want to remind you, Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Going to be talking to senior righty out of Elkhorn, Drew Kristo. A very, very solid senior season, and really the last couple of years, one of the more reliable arms that Nebraska had out of that bullpen. Some high leverage moments for him that he came through and really got Nebraska some big W's in the process too. So looking forward to talking to Drew, not only about his career, his season, but what's ahead for Drew Kristo, who obviously still has eyes, what I would assume would be on some pro baseball with that draft just around the corner. Also want to get into some of the new additions that we've heard about for Nebraska football in the roster, including a rugby-style punter. But as I mentioned in hour number 1, I understand we're in the first days of June. We've got a big event coming up Friday night at Memorial Stadium with the 7-on-7 battle at the Boneyard taking place. It's going to be really cool. We were talking to Evan Bland about that. Going to talk to Brian Christopherson tomorrow, get his thoughts on it. Also, hopefully, going to have Damon Benning back on the show this week, get his thoughts on that and just the importance of this summer conditioning going on, because this is a very, very probably less talked about time. We get into spring ball a lot because there's a lot of media coverage, but this is that behind the scenes. You don't get to hear much out of it. The summer conditioning, the summer workouts, but it's an important time. It's that precursor to fall camp, and then things get real. I think, 86 days, is that right? 86 days till kickoff between Nebraska and Cincinnati out at Arrowhead Stadium. So we'll get there. And so I figured with the Football Power Index, the FPI coming out and seeing some of the early projections. I know everybody's going to be cracking open their Phil Steele magazine here shortly. I think that goes to press Friday, I believe. So a lot of the college football preseason conversations, obviously they've been happening already with a lot of just the changing landscape and when that revenue share and just overall ruling in the courts is actually going to be finalized, which still waiting any moment for that. But as far as what the season could look like, that is what I'm all about. And, yeah, maybe it is too early. But ESPN and Football Power Index gave us a little bit of an early gift, a little projection, if you will, on what the Power Index looks like in college football. And I know there's a lot of people out there. And, look, it's okay to roll your eyes at this. It absolutely is, because until it plays out on Saturdays, or in Nebraska's case, the occasional Thursday or even Friday, we will see it when we believe it, right? I totally understand that. But all of the Football Power Index, all of that goes in with the different projections. You've got returners, you've got schedule. There's a lot of the data points that go into the Football Power Index. And so I think it's always fun to kind of look at where Nebraska is amongst the Big Ten, amongst the entire national football landscape. And currently, as of today, in the Football Power Index, Nebraska is at 25. And so let's do this. Who is Nebraska in the neighborhood with? Okay, well, your top 20, where Nebraska rounds out the top 25, Arizona State's 24. Obviously, they had a pretty solid season. Missouri is 23. Arkansas is 22. Kansas State's 21. And SMU is 20. We can go a little bit further. I'm working backwards. I get it. We'll get to number one here in a moment. USC is 19. Florida 18. Michigan 17. Oklahoma 16. South Carolina is 15. Auburn 14. Ole Miss 13. LSU 12, Clemson 11, Tennessee is 10. And your top 10, Texas number 1, Georgia 2, Alabama 3, Ohio State 4, Penn State 5, Oregon 6, Notre Dame 7, A&M 8th, and Miami 9th. And again, Tennessee was 10. So, okay, what does all this mean? Because I know some people, there's a lot of different metrics out there. There's a lot of the different formulas that try to project seasons that put you in either the Power Index or some of the other formulas that go into this. Well, this is what it does. It gives you the projection win-loss total. It gives you the percentage to win out. It gives you the percentage of winning your division. And obviously, in the Big Ten, there's no division. Gives you the percentage of making the playoffs, making the national championship game, and winning the national championship game. So we'll give this as a reference point. So Texas has the highest Football Power Index. They're at a 28.5, which means their projected win-loss total is 10.4 to 2.1 losses. Their winning out percentage is 8.9. Obviously, those numbers are going to be extremely low based on the conference you're in and everything that comes with that. But this is where I get interested. Their percentage to win the SEC conference is 34.1%. Their percentage, which this is pretty high, percentage to make the playoffs, according to Football Power Index, is 83.9. Their percentage to make the national championship game is 37.7. And to win a national championship is 24.1%. So that's number one, according to FPI, Texas. So let's move down to Nebraska. They have a FPI Power Index rating of 9.3. So if you're following along, they're going to shoot out their projected win-loss total. The win-loss total, according to Football Power Index and ESPN, is 7.5 to 4.5 losses, which this is why I say it's okay to roll your eyes. Weird. Nebraska in the metrics are projected to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 7-5 team or an 8-4 team. 7-5, you can round up and say 8, 4.5, you can round up and say, all right, 5. So do we bring that 7.5 down to a 7 and a 5 or an 8 and a 4? Again, I get it. It's early. It's what are we really doing here? No, I'm not going to go through the schedule right now and say, well, that should be a win. This should be a win. This should be a win. But you'll start to get, and we know Vegas will start putting out the odds of, in fact, they already have, of some of those early games, some of those marquee matchups in the non-conference and even some of the more marquee matchups early in conference season. So the odds makers are obviously digging into a lot of these types of formulas and metrics and what have you. Now, Nebraska's, their percentage, well, first of all, I'll give you their percentage to make the playoffs is 10.3. Huh? And their percentage of 10.3 is actually higher than some of the teams ahead of them. Arkansas, for instance, has a 9.2% chance. Actually, no. Missouri has a 9.2% chance. Arkansas has an 8.2% chance of making the playoffs. But again, those are teams that reside in the SEC. So those chances are going to be a little bit lower because you're probably looking, again, with their projected win-loss total, it's 6.9 to 5.2 and 6.1 to 5.9. So you're looking at those two teams, even though they're ahead based on their FPI ranking, their win-loss projections are a little bit less than Nebraska. So my question would be, does that feel right? I think my initial answer would be, yeah. I think that's the neighborhood that you're kind of looking for when it comes to Nebraska and the overall, I think, win-loss total that most, when we get closer to the season, when everybody from ESPN, CBS, when Phil Steele is putting out his magazine, I think you're going to see anything from that neighborhood of 7-5 to 8-4. Now, again, obviously Matt Rule in year number 3, and this is where he and his previous stops has made his biggest jump. And I think there's a lot of reason to believe that that can happen with Nebraska based on the way that not only that they've recruited, but the way that they've developed that initial recruiting class. And this transfer portal haul this last season, I'm extremely excited about, very excited about. But again, we've bought into, and this is not even a Matt Rule thing, we bought into some of the previous years where, 2019 Nebraska, because I laugh because I remember Dan Orlovsky saying that Nebraska, in his opinion, was a dark horse to make the college football playoff. Obviously, that time was a 4-team playoff. I thought that was going a little too far, but there were a lot of people taking Nebraska to win the division. And I bought that. I absolutely did. And it had nothing to do with, well, the success that Frost had in year 2 at Central Florida. A lot of it had to do with the schedule. I just thought that was a favorable schedule for Nebraska, considering what they had back. Remember, Adrian Martinez is coming off of what was a very impressive true freshman year. You're thinking, okay, he is really going to shine as a sophomore in another year in this system. It didn't work out that way. So there's been a lot of years where Nebraska has been a little bit hyped. But I think this is a very measured approach. I think there's a lot of belief amongst the college football pundits that really study this, that, A, have a lot of respect for the type of coach that Matt Rule is. And it's not because necessarily his reputation when he was at Temple and when he was at Baylor. I think it's watching how he has gone about building teams. And this is the other thing that me personally, and I've heard this a little bit from some of the other national college football writers when it comes to Matt Rule, is in the constant changing world of college football, that Matt Rule's experience in the NFL probably serves him better than most. And again, he got fired in Carolina, but having been with an NFL organization, you come back into college football, and all of a sudden the college football world that you left before you went to Carolina is a lot more like the world you were just in the NFL when it comes to transactions, when it comes to the financial incentive that comes with college football, much more than it did when he was at Baylor. He was able to, I think, hit the ground running. And I think there's also a lot about Matt Rule that he uses the word intentionality. Everything he does, from doing interviews with Pat McAfee, with showing up at all these big events, see him at golf events, see him at NASCAR events, seeing him at WWE Raw, seeing him at all those different events, promoting the football brand, the program, and understanding how big that can be in the world of recruiting, where you're just not showing up to recruits' houses, or you're just not scrolling through the old transfer portal and trying to identify guys that are going to be good for your program, but being able to out and about, because when people see Matt Rule, what are they attached to? Hey, there's the head coach at Nebraska. So there's a cool factor with Matt Rule as well. I think there's a lot about that with the belief of Nebraska being able to take that step because of the roster that they have. You have a young, exciting quarterback, but you're building things the right way. You've coupled him with a very well-known offensive mind in Dana Holgorsen. You're building that offensive line. You get 2 key hauls from the transfer portal, some very good receivers. I'm excited to see what Dane Key can do. That running back room is going to be interesting. And you see all of a sudden this really strong connection between Dylan and Emmett Johnson on and off the field. What's that going to mean in the season? And then the defense, even with John Butler taking over from Tony White, who Tony White was fantastic as the DC. You've got this loaded secondary. You're replacing some guys in the front 7, but I don't know about you guys. I'm extremely excited to see what Riley Van Poppel and Cam Lenhart can be. Having that year of, okay, you're going to cut your teeth a little bit as freshmen. Now we're going to hold you back a little bit. We're going to develop you in that second year, because we got some other guys that are going to be playing their last snaps for Nebraska, in Nash and in Ty Robinson. They're fantastic. You get to watch from the sideline. You get to learn from those guys, because when they leave, and they've left, now you guys are the dudes. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. But the one area, and we'll get to this after we talk to Drew Kristo, is going to be special teams. That's a huge part of Nebraska trying to take that step forward. And again, you bring a guy in like Mike Eckler, there's excitement there. It's gonna stir up a lot of that optimism. Again, we'll see when it happens on Thursday and Arrowhead Stadium, and then the following Saturdays. But I feel this number, the College Football Power Index, that 7.5 to 4.5 as far as wins and losses, is probably right in the neighborhood of what you're going to see from most people. That's just my guess. We'll see, though. When we come back, as I mentioned, Drew Kristo, just a fantastic career, and really at the end of his career, too, one of the most heavily relied upon arms out of the bullpen, high-leverage guy, just a great representative of the Nebraska baseball program as well. He will join me next. We'll talk about his career, what's ahead for him, his thoughts on this season as well. That's all coming up next. Also want to remind you that to stop by your local Hy-Vee, where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. Drew Kristo joins me next here on Sports Nightly.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing. You pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
No need to hunt around for friendly service, low prices, quality products, and great experiences. You'll find it all with the local experts, Sapp Brothers Petroleum. If you're tired of tracking down another late delivery, it's time to consider Sapp Brothers, where we pride ourselves on delivering products on time or even ahead of schedule, with your safety our top priority. Switching is easy. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. And right now, when you contact Sapp Brothers for any of your fuel, propane, or lubricant needs, you'll be entered to win a guided pheasant hunt next fall. Visit sappbros.net/Huskers.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you every swing, every slide. Play ball, presented by Nebraska DHHS.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com. Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing. You pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Hour 2 here, Sports Nightly, still recapping the baseball season. Some good stuff from Evan Bland earlier, and of course we're talking more about what we had a chance to see with this Nebraska baseball team, and a big part of Nebraska's resurgence there in the second half and what they were able to do to get back into the winner's circle of the Big Ten tournament. And obviously not the finish that our next guest would have liked, but a guy that was absolutely huge in not only this year, but also last year's championship as well, and all the success that Nebraska's had. Happy to be joined here by reliever and one of the heavily used arms for this Nebraska baseball staff, Drew Kristo. And still, the thing I want to start off with, and I wanted to mention this during the broadcast. I think I heard Big Papi say this when he was at the Red Sox one year, that he woke up one morning and he felt his shoulder was on the other side of the room. That's how sore he was. The amount of use and the different spots, I always wondered if you kind of woke up that way too. But, I mean, you obviously this thing doesn't end the way you want it to, but just your reflection and the emotions that you experienced Sunday after what was a tough loss, but also really a great bounce back from the first half of the season to get to that NCAA regional.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I think you don't really realize what the emotions are going to be like until you really play that last game and until that last out is made. I think for us, towards that back end of the season, there was a lot of different games where it could have been my last game and the team's last game of the year. But we were able to, kind of with our backs up against the wall, fight and scratch and claw to see one more day and one more game, kind of like we did the whole season. And I think if you would have, looked up at the halfway point of the season and then see where we ended the year, being able to play in a regional, against some good teams and then in good environments like that, and to go out like that, I think, that's a pretty good testament of the toughness of the team and kind of how we were able to rally together and finish the thing strongly. I mean, obviously it didn't end the way that, every team wants it to, but there's only, at the end of the day, there's only going to be, well, I mean, if you look at the Big Ten tournament, some teams ended their season with a win, but realistically, there's only one team that ends with a win at the end of the year. And so heartbreak is felt for a lot of different teams, but I think for us, it was one that, at the end of the day, we were disappointed in the result, but we would hold our heads high on how we were able to finish the season when some things looked a little grim at points.
Yeah, it's a good mention on the new Big Ten tournament format. That is true. You could actually end your tournament run with a win and still not be moving on. That's fun stuff. But You mentioned the way that the season had been and you know how you guys bounced back. I continue to make reference to the really the month of March, but also just the 11 days in California where it seemed like when you guys got back, that could have gone one way or the other. Where were you at? Where do you feel the team was at when you guys got back from that trip? And the offense wasn't quite there. Pitching still trying to find its way. Just still trying to maybe find that identity. Where were you, and where do you think the team was there?
Yeah, I think for our team at that time, it kind of was a point where we were kind of spinning our wheels. You know, it really hadn't set in that we had lost, you know, a Friday night ace and a preseason All-American at the front of our rotation, which, you know, really affects your team a lot deeper than just one game on a Friday. You know, that bleeds into Saturday and Sunday, bleeds into your bullpen, and it bleeds into how you approach midweeks. And so that was kind of still, I think, settling in. Tucker, losing a guy like that for, you know, the amount that he was out. And I think that had all not really set in yet for us. And the offense, like you said, there was a little bit of a lull there for those 10 days. But I think, you know, where we were at, we were still confident in what we had. I don't think anybody started questioning things. And I think that at that point, you know, that was a point for this team where we could have chose to break. And I think there would have been a lot of excuses for us to do that. But we decided to keep on forging ahead. Guys were challenged offensively and on the mound to carve out new roles that might have not been asked of them at the start of the season, but they're being asked now based on the situation. And we had guys do that, and we had guys step up in ways that they maybe weren't expecting. And I think that's what allowed us to, you know, go on and win those consecutive conference games in the Big Ten tournament and just the conference series towards the end of the year to put us in a spot to play postseason baseball when it might have not looked like that after that California trip.
We're talking to Husker Drew Kristo here on Sports Nightly. I know we all probably look at the season, if whether it was us in the broadcast booth, you guys on the field, the coaching staff, the support staff, at some moment in this season where you felt, okay, it's clicking, here we go. Do you remember a certain moment of the season of, okay, now this is more like it? Was there anything any weekend where that sort of resonated to you?
I think for me personally, it was the Oregon State series. You know, obviously you're playing a top 5 team at home in your own ballpark, and you want to go out and prove something, especially after maybe the month before hadn't gone so great. And so I think just coming in, getting the Friday night win in a close game, and then honestly, you know, what happened Saturday with them hitting 8 home runs and kind of punching back, I think our resolve to just come back out on Sunday and win that series was something for me that really showed that this team can do what it takes when things don't maybe aren't all rainbows and sunshine. And the team looked good. The offense really sparked itself, I think, during that weekend. And we had some really good outings on the mound from some guys. And I think that was the weekend for me that really was like, this team hasn't quit. We're still in the fight, and we've got the ability to do some good things down the stretch here. And we went on and proved that.
I know a lot of people will talk about culture. You've been a part of this culture for, you know, Will Bold and Rob Childress and, you know, Lance Arvell, Mike Sirianni, you know, even at a time, Jeff Christie, you know, when you first got there too. You look at that path and you look at what Will Bolt has established. In your opinion, is that also a big part of where Nebraska gets back into the postseason, the NCAA tournament, in that Big Ten championship game, with a lot of the reasons you laid out right there, where guys were, you know, still really bought into finishing the season the way you guys expected to?
Yeah, I think, you know, culture is what's going to drive any and every program. And I think the culture that Coach Bolt and all the coaches here are driving home with us each and every year is just one of toughness and resilience and grit. And I think, you know, in a season where things kind of go your way and it's nice and the weekends are easy and nobody gets hurt and, you know, things are coming pretty easy for you, you can go on and make the postseason without having to employ those type of values. And teams who maybe aren't built on those values, when things are hard and don't go as easy as you want them to go, that's kind of when those teams, you know, fall short of what their preseason goals were. But I think that because the culture is what it is, and because it's been developed and enforced over the last, you know, 4 or 5 years as Coach Bolt's kind of built this thing, and kind of how I've seen it grow over my career, I think that was evident in us making a run at the end and us just kind of willing our way, into a regional and into the Big Ten tournament and back to the championship game and back to the bottom of a dog pile, honestly. And I think that was really evident. And, it doesn't just happen in 1 year. That's, a lot of years of players and coaches buying in and exemplifying that every day.
Just a couple more questions, and I appreciate you spending time with us. I want to ask you the question also about just your career. You go back to a lot of expectations coming out of Elkhorn. I know a lot of people were very excited about what your future held at Nebraska and being one of those great arms, one of those great local arms that we were going to see do some big things. And I'm sure you're the first one to admit it wasn't maybe as smooth as a lot of people just assumed it would be because you made it look so easy in high school. But what has that journey been like and the tutelage that you've had, especially ending it with Rob Childers? What has that, just the totality of your career been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, reflecting back on my 4 years, I think, if you would have asked me in high school to write out how it went, I wouldn't have started with that, and I probably wouldn't have ended it with the way I thought it was going to end either. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it. I wasn't expecting it to go like that, and I'm grateful that it did. I think there was a lot of things that I learned as a freshman and as a sophomore that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. I was challenged in ways that I hadn't been challenged before, both in athletics and just in off-the-field situations. And I really had to learn and grow. And I think, all the coaches here, and especially Coach Childress, were big mentors and people who guided me on that path to, figure some things out about myself, out about life and about baseball. And I think just looking back, the things that I thought maybe were important to me coming into this college experience, performing at a high level and individually succeeding and getting drafted and, going on and doing all those things kind of faded to the background. And as I'm finishing up my career, the things that, at the end of my career that are at the front and what I'll take away from this place are, just the relationships that I built with my teammates and working hard to be a leader on this team, both on the field and off the field, and really just making connections with guys and trying to be a friend and a mentor to them, and really just building lessons from this game for the rest of my life. And I think, I've learned those things through my 4 years here, and I think if it would have gone differently, then there'd be a lot of things that I don't currently have right now that this place and these struggles and adversity have given me. And so, it wasn't maybe the ideal scenario, but I think for me it was the right one and honestly the one that's going to set me up for the rest of my life. And I'm grateful for every single second of it, and I would never go back and change a thing. I think the way that I was able to, carve out a role as a junior and a senior and just kind of do what was asked of me for the team and show up every day and, really whatever we needed for the team to be better, I was willing to do that. And so I'm happy with the ability of myself to to take on that role and just try and give Nebraska this place that I love so much, everything that I had. And I think after my last game and looking back on my career, I can say that I did that.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree. Some amazing moments, especially here in the last couple of years and the amount of innings that you chewed up and some high-leverage situations. Before I let you go, what's next? I know there's still a lot of work to be done as far as possibly a little career in medicine or what we're looking for going forward. So what's next for Drew Kristo?
Yeah, what's next for me is so obviously with the draft in July, I'm gonna pursue that, and whether that's the draft or a free agent signing, I think I still have a desire and a passion to play baseball, and so if I'm able to have that opportunity, that's something that I'm gonna attack head on. But if that opportunity isn't there for me this year, then my career beyond baseball hopefully will get started. After the draft, I plan on applying to medical schools if I don't get a deal, and we'll see where that takes me, whether it's staying here and going to Nebraska Medicine School or just going across the country. But, that would be the plan, attack the draft head on, and we can see what happens there. And if not, then shift my sights to a career in medicine.
Well, great representative of this baseball program. I got to experience that when we were out in Iowa City, and my son had shown you a picture that he drew. I remember that, and you were fantastic. He's a big fan, and I know there are thousands and thousands of Drew Kristo fans that are sad that they won't see you in a Husker uniform, but we're all hoping that we'll see you continue down the baseball path, and if not, we know you're going to be successful. Still, really appreciate you spending time with us tonight. Just congratulations on a fantastic career. All the best going forward, and we'll be rooting for you, and we'll be following you, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me tonight, and thanks for supporting these last 4 years.
As Drew Kristo joining us here on Sports Nightly, we have more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day. Plus, a leading producer of ag equipment unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your basement and damaging your home. Mold, cracks, and of course visible water are just a few signs your basement is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Here's what's on tap, brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Again, big thing on tap this Friday, and that is the Battle of the Boneyard taking place at Memorial Stadium. And again, it's an all-day thing. Afternoon is when everything kicks off. It's essentially a 7-on-7 camp, and you'll have a lot of drills going on, and then the actual competition will get underway in pool play at 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock is when the brackets will hash out, and then they'll go all the way to a championship game in the 7-on-7 battle at the Boneyard. And again, this is going to be some of the very best skill position players in the high school ranks right now all throughout the country. Some big markets that are going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun to see this. And again, this is free and incentive for the first 500 in attendance, because you will get a free T-shirt courtesy of Adidas, free Fairberry brand hot dog, and a free Gatorade. That is, again, this Friday, the Battle of the Boneyard on this Friday, June 6th at Memorial Stadium. So be sure to check that out. Again, that's what's on tap, brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Only worth it if you enjoyed. I want to go to the chat because I saw a couple of you guys were asking, and I didn't get a chance to ask them during the interview. But for Drew Kristo, and I know Dr. Shane was wanting to know maybe what the toughest class that Drew Kristo took. Now, again, if the baseball thing doesn't work out, this is going to be the path that he takes. He is an extremely intelligent kid. He has done great in school as well. His answer to that question, I texted him during the commercial break there. He said biochemistry 2 during the season, but he did get an A. But that was without question his most difficult class right there. But how about that, too? During the season, you're focused on it, and that is without question. I can honestly tell you, that never crossed my mind to ever even consider taking biochemistry. But obviously, if you're in the field that he is. But yes, biochemistry 2, he took that during the season. He said it was tough, but in true Drew Kristo fashion, he did get an A. So good stuff from there. And again, I got to share this story because I just thought it was so cool. My son became a big part of this season with me, and my wife would come to some of the trips when we would do these baseball broadcasts. And so we were out in Iowa City, and my son's favorite player, because he loves catchers, he's a big fan of that position, was Will Jeske, because the first game he went to, Will Jeske was catching. And so he drew this picture of Will Jeske and like a baseball, and he wrote his name on it, and Drew Kristo was the first one to see it. So my son had a chance to meet Drew before the team took off. I think it was before the Saturday game against Iowa. And, you see this. I mean, Drew's a big dude, just a lumbering guy. I mean, he's an intimidating presence. But he kneels down and he's just talking to my son, and then my son shows him the picture, and he was just complimenting. He's like, oh, you got to show him that. And from that point on, my son also was always wanting to know when Drew Kristo was going to pitch too, because he absolutely loved him. And that was the other thing about this team, being around them, but also having my son have a chance. And I know Ben's oldest daughter was around them, and those two would run around together at some of the home games. And the way that this baseball team would engage with them and interact with them was so cool to see. And I think that even goes even further with the part when you think about the culture when it comes to this team, and these guys are as tough as it comes when it comes to competition. I mean, they want to win as much as everybody does, but they're also, I think they're very appreciative of the fans that are around them, especially the young fans, because they were there once too. But I think it's really easy to sometimes feel like you don't have enough time for that, or you don't want to, but that was not the case with this team. And Drew Kristo is another one of those guys, just an unbelievable talent, but such a good representative of this baseball team as well. Wanted to get back to some football here. We were talking a little bit about the FPI, the Football Power Index. I'm sure the SP Plus will be coming out soon. And also, Shane pointed out, too, on the chat, the Vegas win total for Nebraska is 7.5, 7.5. So there you go. Take the over, take the under. God, that's a tough one right now. But, yeah, the SP Plus, there's some similar metrics that go into that, and I know that's been one during the preseason that a lot of people will talk about when it does come to Nebraska. We were talking a little bit about that part of it. But also, as I mentioned, the one area for this team that I'm excited to see under Mike Eckler, but also an area that is just had some challenges where it just hasn't all come together, whether it's been the kicking game, whether it's been the return game. And you've had positive moments in those phases, but for whatever reason, you could never get all of those phases, or I should say that third phase being special teams, all of those elements of special teams to connect. And one of the things that is going to be very interesting to see, because we have not seen it, and you go back to the long line of some great punters that we have seen at Nebraska. We've never seen a rugby-style punter, and we know Nebraska now has one of those. It was announced and confirmed, I believe On3 was the first one to confirm it, that Nebraska was able to bring in a guy by the name of Archie Wilson, who comes from Haileybury College from Australia, and he will come in and you would think fill that role of being a rugby-style punter that Mike Eckler has had in the past, and that's what he would like to see from that position. So you do have that part of it, and then, of course, bringing in some competition with some kickers as well. See what Tristan Alvano hopefully is healthy now, but also John Hole, and then a new addition that would be Kyle, I believe it's Kunanen, Kyle Kunanen. Will be coming in the Charlotte Cal transfer too. So that part of the special teams is obviously huge. And when I think of Nebraska taking a big step forward, you think about not having to be electric. You know, you don't need the Alex Henry, 57-yard field goals on the reg. But what you do need is the guy that is going to be able to make the 45 to 50-yard field goals consistently. Anything that you're 45 yards or inside of that you're hitting that at a high clip. The punting part of it, being able to flip the field position and being able to utilize that, especially in the Big Ten when the weather gets cooler, and being able to have that phase, being able to click and seeing more consistency. It's without question what Mike Eckler is going to be tasked with, but I've said this many times with Jessica, that his overall energy and commitment to special teams, but just that ability to get the guys that they need to be contributors on special teams excited about that and understanding the importance of that and finding that consistency in all levels of special teams, I think is something that you definitely identify with Mike Eckler. And again, that is a major area for Nebraska to find some improvement in. And if they can do that, again, we start looking at that year 3 jump that Matt Rule's had at his 2 previous coaching spots at Temple and Baylor. If you're able to get just consistency out of that to where special teams is solid, not world beaters, but just solid, that goes a long way into having that year 3 jump. All right, we're going to come back to wrap up the show as we continue here on Sports Nightly. Don't go anywhere.
The game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
You're going to feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
The game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you, every swing, every slide. Play ball, presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Nick Handley with you. One final segment here on this Tuesday. I'll be back with you tomorrow. We're going to be talking to Brian Christopherson of Husker Sports 24/7. Get his thoughts on a big recruiting week. And I should say this, too, because it's not just the battle at the Boneyard, which, again, I think this is going to be such a cool event to be a part of if you can get out there. Again, for the first 500 fans, you get a free T-shirt, free Fairberry brand hot dog, and a Gatorade as well, but also a chance to see this competition with some of the really great young players around the country in the skilled position, too. So a very unique, creative way for Nebraska to get some real amazing high school talent on campus here in June, very similar to the Friday Night Lights one, but also want to mention what's going on at Huddle. Now, Huddle is also having an event this week. It's a Huddle orientation recruiting event that's going on in Nebraska where you're also going to have some big prospects that are in town as well. So this, as you see the month of June, and as it typically is for Nebraska football and for college football in general, you start to see a lot of the moving and shaking going on. This is where it's more about those traditional guys. I feel like the last couple of years now when we talk recruiting, we're talking more out of the transfer portal. We're talking about those guys that can come in and impact your team right away. But as we know, it's going to be so important when we see roster size reductions to be able to hit a lot of home runs when it comes to the high school recruiting. And so you have these events coming up. And again, it's very similar to every other major college football program and really trying to make their hay with the high school recruits in June. But I love this 7-on-7 football competition Friday night, but also Huddle doing this orientation recruiting event that will also take place this week. You are going to have some very highly recruited prospects making their way into Lincoln here, really starting tomorrow all the way through Saturday and hopefully Sunday. Some of these guys stick around and have a chance to meet with the coaches. I know there'll still be some of the official visits. I mentioned that Trey Taylor, who's already committed to Nebraska, is doing a lot of peer recruiting as well. So there's a lot to be excited about when it does come to just this month in what is typically a time that we just don't hear that much coming out of these college football programs, and especially Nebraska. I mentioned the OTAs are going on, or I guess you call them the summer workouts, and all of that is happening as well. So you've got what is a very important part of trying to get a feel for who's going to impact you this year, the development, the strides that some of those younger players have made. They're trying to maybe crack that too deep this season, but also really trying to make those inroads with the future rosters. And so some major high school recruiting events coming up this week for Nebraska. And again, as I said many times throughout the show, you have a chance to be a part of that if you're a fan of Nebraska, especially Friday night at Memorial Stadium. Also starting to see some of the toughest subjects that a lot of these folks in our chat room did take. Now, I know Dr. Shane has probably taken some pretty good ones, but gosh, there are some classes in here that I haven't even heard of, and it's probably a reason for that. But yeah, anytime you talk about biochemistry, yeah, I'm out on that one. So anyway, hey, big thanks to all of you for listening to the show. Also to Russ Brown, Henry Goodwin, David Swotek back in our Akrs Broadcast Studio. Back with you tomorrow. Looking forward to talking to you then. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night. It's been Sports Nightly.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra. The perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
I got to see my brother get married.
I
would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic